Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I thought that today it would be really fun to do a how I ended up in New Zealand during the pandemic video and what it's been like to be here as an international. So here's the story. There's really not much tea about it, but I'm sorry if I'm talking in a soft tone. I do have flatmates and I find it super awkward to think that they might be able to hear me. So I guess I'll go back to the very beginning. So I have a video on my channel called Moving to New Zealand at 23, and I filmed that before I left Canada, probably like a few days before we moved here, and I kind of explained why we were going, I think. So basically, my partner and I went to university together, graduated in the same year, and when I was looking for jobs post-uni, he brought up the idea of moving to New Zealand. Now, this was obviously pre-COVID. His grandfather is from New Zealand. His parents have been back here. His uncle lived here. His family still feels really connected, and I knew nothing about New Zealand. Like, I will be honest with you, I don't think I knew where it was on a map, genuinely, and you know, that makes me sound super dumb, but honestly, I just wasn't that familiar with it. So yeah, I didn't know much about New Zealand, and I was kind of like, I've kind of decided, you know, I don't want to go abroad to work because we had just moved back home from Europe. But then I Googled New Zealand, like literally just New Zealand, and I was amazed, guys. Like, I was in love because this country is so beautiful. The leadership here is outstanding, which, at least from my perspective as an international here, we've been really thankful for it. And I was just totally hooked. So we decided that we would move to New Zealand in January of 2020. So we probably decided in March, I think, of 2020 that that's what we were going to do. And we started going through the visa process and transferring of our qualifications, finding jobs, etc. So we moved here with full-time jobs in the beginning of January 2020. We landed on January 9th. We had 10 days at an Airbnb here in Wellington, where we live, to find a house. We spent that time house hunting. It was really hard to find a place for a variety of reasons. If you want a video on house hunting in New Zealand, which I had planned to make at that time, but we were just so stressed trying to find a place. We found a place outside the city. We moved in end of Jan, and we lived there until October when we moved here into the city. So we had secure jobs and we had a place to stay when we went into lockdown. So essentially we were here for January and February. COVID wasn't really a thing internationally, like a major thing. So things started to really kick off around the world, and I felt like we were much more aware because our whole family is back in Canada, and my partner's sister was traveling Europe at the time, so we were just really keeping up with the news. It had been really kicking off internationally, so I had a really strong feeling that it was going to come here, because borders were still open, and if people are traveling, the virus is obviously going to travel. So it came here in early March. We were actually traveling and I got super sick. So I called the COVID line and was told there was only 2 cases in the country. I was told that I didn't need to worry. I was about to go to this massive fair. It's like this huge farmers market that happens twice a year. And people come from all over the North Island and come from the South Island. And so I was like, I cannot go feeling this sick. So after I made that phone call, we had 2 cases in the country, and things continued as normal pretty much until the end of March. So our cases were slowly rising, but not by too much. And then near the end of March, we had one day with a 100-day case increase, and the government here announced that we would be going into a hard lockdown in 48 hours. So the announcement came, we basically had 48 hours to prepare, and then we would be in a hard lockdown. So in those 48 hours, everything shut down except for essential services, and schools stayed open for those 48 hours for the children of essential service workers to give them 48 hours to figure out where their kids were going to go. So I left my work and we went grocery shopping, and they were using the slogan shop normal and shop kind, I think. So we lived in quite a big house at the time. We had space to store food, and we had kind of had a storage of food anyways because we just had been buying stuff when it was on sale. So we just got a normal grocery load. it was funny because we didn't have panic buying here the same way it happened overseas, like with toilet paper and stuff. I think people kind of saw the insanity. And I don't know, it didn't really happen here. You could not get your hands on flour. You could not get your hands on baking supplies during lockdown because I think tons of people were doing that. But we were able to get the essentials. So we went shopping and then we were literally home after that. So for the next 7 weeks, we were home full time, all the time. We left the house to go for walks. And one of us, between my partner and I, would get groceries once a week, and we ordered our groceries online, and then we would drive, pick them up, they were already in bags, bring them home. So yeah, we didn't leave the house really. Luckily for us, both of us still had full-time work. We were working online. For the first 2 weeks we were actually on holiday from work, so the first week of lockdown was kind of exciting because it was like, oh, I can stay up late and I can sleep in, and there's not really the pressure of everyday life. But it gets boring after a while, and overall I had a really positive lockdown experience. But there were days that were harder because we're really far from home. I was worried about my family overseas. I missed my friends, which I know doesn't make a difference if you're home or not because no one could see their friends anyways. And it was hard to motivate myself sometimes because we literally had nothing open. You weren't allowed to leave your neighborhood unless you were driving to an essential service, which was a gas, the grocery store, or a medical place. Basically everything was banned that was dangerous at all. So there was no hiking allowed, no surfing, no swimming. I think no swimming. And that was to ensure that resources weren't being spent caring for preventable injuries so that should we need to, we could at least try to cope with the COVID cases. And that all made sense. So, I FaceTimed my family every week, which was really nice. I started tutoring online privately on top of my work. I set goals, my partner and I set goals. My friend made a fitness group that we all joined online. My boyfriend and I were following a workout guide. I tried cooking new meals, kind of the same thing as everybody else. I think it's probably everyone's lockdown. So anyways, moral of the story, because I'm totally rambling, is that lockdown here in New Zealand was very short compared to the rest of the world. And that's because it happened early and it was really strict, and I'm really thankful for that. And even in lockdown, I was super thankful for the approach that the government took, because while it had obviously economic impacts and stuff, it allowed us to reopen sooner and return to life as normal. So going out of lockdown was kind of a weird feeling. I almost didn't want to at first because you're so used to just being in your bubble. We still gave everyone lots of space on the sidewalks. Masks weren't mandatory except for public transit, but they were encouraged, so we wore them depending on where we were going. But it is amazing how fast people's feelings returned to normal in terms of being close together. So we went out to support some small businesses with friends and sort of eased back in. Work reopened, we went back to work, and life pretty much resumed as normal and has stayed that way since. So being in New Zealand post-lockdown, which was about May, level 4 lockdown, has been a blessing. And I know that everybody wants to be here. And we had lots of family and friends who had tickets to come. So we had 2 friends who were planning to move here. So, I think for us, it's we are so thankful to be here. We never could have predicted it. And you could say we timed it perfectly, but obviously we had no idea. But since then, we've just been really trying to make the most of it. We're on a 2-year visa. So we've been traveling on our holidays. We have 2-week holidays every 10 weeks, and then we have the summers off. And we've been sharing all of that with our family back home, and they really, really enjoy it. I'm sometimes hesitant to share it with friends because I know how privileged our position is right now. It also blows my mind, guys, how many people we've met from the States, honestly everywhere, but a lot from the States, who have New Zealand citizenship through their parents or their grandparents or somehow. And they've been able to just leave the States and come here. And I'm like, that is such a privilege. How crazy. Imagine, you just have Kiwi citizenship and it probably doesn't mean that much to you. And then, not that it doesn't mean that much to you, but a lot of these people, I think, hadn't ever been to New Zealand. They weren't born here. And then COVID hits and you're like, I have a Kiwi passport. and you move here. Like, that is incredible. That's such a privilege. But anyways, I've been watching lots of videos on YouTube of people being like, I'm moving to New Zealand, either through like a partnership visa or they have citizenship. And yeah, it's such a privilege to be here because we don't have anything like that. So had we not been here before COVID hit, we wouldn't have been able to come. Obviously, we really miss our families, and there's days that we really miss home, and we have to remember that going home wouldn't be like, you know, what it normally would be like. We wouldn't be able to see our friends, and it would be assuming a big risk to fly home, and then I wouldn't want to quarantine with my family because I'd be worried about putting them at risk, and also we don't want to leave. But we just want the world to go back to normal like everybody else. Yeah, I don't really know. I didn't fully have a direction for this video other than to kind of explain how we got here. It was by total chance that it happened pre-COVID, and thankfully, not thankfully that COVID hit, but it hit at the beginning of our visas. So we've never been that stressed about our visas running out. We still have another year. We're looking at extending. Oh, one thing I should say, because we've still been traveling, we've met a ton of people, and we've been doing all of like the most popular things to do in New Zealand because that's what we were planning to do anyways. And some things are cheaper, a lot aren't, but the experience has been so different. Like, we did the Tongariro Northern Circuit. The Tongariro is the most popular day hike in New Zealand apparently, and our hut ranger averaged that 4,000 people do the crossing every day, just the day crossing, okay? The Tongariro, you are hiking through volcanic territory. It is incredible. And so many people have told us that it's like being in a conga line, and there's people in front of you and people behind you. We saw 4 other people. 4. We had the whole thing to ourselves. And so a silver lining that has come out of this is we are experiencing New Zealand in a way that no one has experienced it in I don't even know how many years. And we're experiencing it with other travelers who are still here, but a lot of Kiwis, which is super cool. We're meeting so many Kiwis who are just out exploring their backyard. The Great Walks are full of Kiwis, and they're so excited and happy that we're here and happy that we're contributing to their tourism economy because we still do tourist things. But like, we went to Queenstown and our Airbnb was horrible, so we booked another one. You can't do that in Queenstown normally. Finding accommodation period is hard, never mind the day you arrive. And we found an amazing Airbnb, the loveliest family from Brazil who's living in New Zealand. Like, it's been a huge silver lining and a huge blessing, and we're just super thankful for how welcoming Kiwis have been. They're so excited that we're here. They love hearing our story, how we got here and why we're still here and what our plans are. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about being an international in New Zealand other than it just blows my mind that I'm in this privileged position, and also that we're very aware that that could change. You know, like, New Zealand has been the safest country to be in for the past, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 months. But obviously we've seen countries have a case that just explodes, and, you know, we try not to ever take it for granted, and we try to make the most of the freedoms we have and go out and do things and experience the country and meet people. And yeah, we really feel for everyone back home. And not back home, but like around the world. We went to an outdoor concert twice this week. We're going again tonight in the Botanical Gardens here in Wellington. They're free, they're incredible. If you ever come to Wellington in January, it's called Gardens Magic, and you have to go. And people were salsa dancing all together at the front of the stage, and we actually sat off to the side because it was so packed. We were like, I don't know, it still feels like a bit much because we actually have had a few COVID cases since May. But I was like, man, this is what humans are supposed to be doing, you know? We're meant to be like touching each other and dancing and hugging and being close and loving each other. And it goes so against our nature to be alone and isolated. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the end of this video. Moral of the story is we're really thankful to be here. We're thankful for where we were during lockdown. Yeah, we just hope that everyone around the world is staying strong, and I hope you found this video interesting. And I've been filming a whole bunch, and now I just have to actually make space on my computer to edit them and upload them. So I did film a Wellington flat tour. I don't know if it'll be up before or after this, but I hope you have a fantastic day, night, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thanks for watching. Bye.